You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty Cheer. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time to catch up with our weekly conversation with the man, the myth, the legend. You wish you were him. It's David Locke, the play-by-play voice of the Utah Jazz. Hi, David. How are you?
David.
I don't know who wishes they were me.
I do.
Yeah, me too.
No, you don't.
Every day.
I mean, if you do. No.
Lloyd dresses like you.
I'm eating a Deer Valley chocolate chip cookie right now, so that's pretty good. Like, that means I'm ahead, but you don't wish you were me, I promise.
What makes a Deer Valley chocolate chip cookie better than an average chocolate chip cookie?
Well, I'm not actually convinced it hasn't gotten a little less good, but they have just traditionally been, I think they're slipping a little bit, honestly. And, do you know about this? I have a little problem. I cannot, not buy a chocolate chip cookie.
All right, so design your...
legitimately.
What is your perfect chocolate chip cookie? Is it flatter and thin? Do you want a little crisp to it? Do you want it more cakey but softer? Give me your ratios of what makes a perfect cookie.
Good discussion. Important discussion, actually. Yeah. Very important discussion. So I do not like cakey. That is a brownie.
Okay.
That is cake. I do not like Frisbees. I'll eat, if desperate and things are really, on the low, I'll eat, Tates. I'll go get the Tates, things, but those are Frisbees.
Okay.
So my perfect chocolate chip cookie has a little crisp to it, but it's probably thin, but it's got some softness in there, and then dark chocolate chips, not milk chocolate chips.
Oh, okay. Semi-sweet, okay?
Yep, semi-sweet's just fine.
The chip, or do you like the chunk? Because I like the chocolate chunk.
You know what I did? I actually take Hershey bars and chop them up.
Oh, yeah.
And use that for chocolate chips.
Yeah, I've always liked the chunk.
That's the worst chocolate in America.
Okay. Snob.
No, but it is. I mean, it is the most popular candy bar in all of America, which tells you all you need to know.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not Godiva.
Yeah.
Right. If we're talking my perfect chocolate chip cookie, we've got some dark chocolate kind of, and maybe a little sea salt. If
sea salt.
Dark enough, then we're going a little sea salt.
You got to have a little sea salt to balance that out. Yep.
If that dark chocolate is dark enough. The Deer Valley chocolate chip cookie, I feel like they're slipping. It's lost the appropriate chip-to-dough ratio. It's a little low on the chip-to-dough ratio. I think they really were – they're always very good because it means you're skiing. They're thin, but they are soft, if that makes sense.
No, I got you.
But I want it cooked. I don't need to eat cookie dough.
Yeah.
Who's got a good one?
David.
Listen, do you know who universally has a surprisingly good chocolate chip cookie? Is Potbelly. Surprisingly good for a chain, because most chains are terrible. Starbucks chocolate chip cookies are dreadful. Those are awful. What are other universal chocolate chip cookies people might have had?
The Costco chocolate chunk, this monster cookie that they got, it's delicious.
Oh, those they come in the big huge plastic thing with 32 of them.
Well, they serve them now at the food court, and they're warm.
Hot. Yeah.
Oh, hot. Yeah, because the other trick on those is those are really good frozen.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me with this.
Those are really good frozen. Surprisingly good frozen, and actually maybe better frozen, which is a weird kind of thing.
Are you, do you want, you just want the chocolate chips, or do you want a little pecans, walnuts in there?
Well, I'm allergic to nuts, so we're not screwing around here.
Okay, all right. We don't want.
I will do an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie.
Raisins or no?
Preferably, probably not. But if it has to be, I can do that.
Okay. I like this.
Yeah. I'm trying. If people would like to hit me on Twitter, DLock09, on where they have their best chocolates, where they cookies, I am interested. Here's my example of how much of an addiction I have. I literally cannot go and not buy one if I'm at a coffee shop. So the other day I put on a jacket and found a chocolate chip cookie sitting inside a jacket pocket.
Some people find a $5 bill. You find a chocolate chip cookie. Yeah.
And so my theory is that I was somewhere on the road and I had already bought a chocolate chip cookie or two that day. And maybe had already eaten a chocolate chip cookie or two that day, but went somewhere and saw a good chocolate chip cookie and then had to buy it. Because, as I said, I actually can't not. And so I put it in my pocket for later, and then I clearly had so many chocolate chip cookies that day that I never remembered. And so I got it when I was getting on the plane the other day. I put my hand in my pocket, in my jacket, and I was like, "Oh, I have a chocolate chip cookie in my pocket."
I think this goes back to when Jonathan Reinhart was the PR guy for the Jazz before Derek took over. And Jonathan would talk about how infamous you were on the plane with the chocolate chip cookies.
Right,
so
probably true.
You've had a reputation that's been around for a bit.
Oh! My tombstone will read, "Enjoyed the most chocolate chip cookies." And when you see that tombstone, you'll say, "So he had a good life. He might have been really fat, but he had a good life." Like, that will be the two thoughts you have if you see if my tombstone read, like, called X amount of NBA games, started a company, you'd be like, what a total D-bag, right? But if it says enjoyed the most chocolate chip cookies, you'd be like, oh, yeah.
Pleasant. That's pleasant.
That's a good life.
That's a good life right there.
Yeah,
Yep.
You got to be careful, David, because you're going to end up going to some random gas station at the mouth of a canyon to get some cinnamon bears because a buddy got you hooked on some soft cinnamon bears at a random gas station.
Yeah, well, I still have cinnamon bears around at all times.
I know. They're the best.
Stacked Sandwich Company, which I'm driving by right now in Park City. Homemade chocolate chip cookies by the wife of the owner. Incredible. And generally, when I finish a ski day, my rule is I just drive in and I walk in, and if they have any left, I think it's a sign from God that I'm supposed to have one. And if they don't have any left, then I just drive home. But I stop in almost every single time. I would have stopped in right then and there, but I'm talking to you.
And if they have a dozen available, that's a sign from God that you need a dozen.
No, I only do one.
All right.
I mean, there's got to be some
moderation.
One dozen.
Yeah, one. Right. Yeah, who are the best chocolate chip cookies in Salt Lake? This is a good. We need to This needs to be an ongoing investigation.
We will. You know what? Our weekly thing. We will have the chocolate chip cookie report.
Are you about these cookie chains, the crumbles and whatnot?
So one of those is a Jazz sponsor,
I was
so I
gonna
should
say,
not comment.
Yeah, walk carefully there.
I gave you my answer when you asked me what types of cookies I like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Hey, Isaiah Collier. Nice night from him the other night. Is there? We talk about the development of individual players. Bryce Sensabaugh we've talked about. Let's talk about Isaiah Collier and what you've seen from him.
Well, when we talk about Isaiah Collier, I think it's really important to talk about Bryce Sensabaugh and Walker Kessler in this sense, and even Keontae. Like, how much better is Bryce Sensabaugh right now than he was a year ago?
Oh yeah,
and how much was 2 years ago? Right. So let's make sure when we have these conversations about Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, and Kyle Filipowski that we're not stamping a finished product. I think the most interesting thing to me about going through this and having these 7 developmental players all at the same time is you really can see, at this stage, at this moment, at this stage, and there are definitely going to be moments along the way where you have to make a decision, but it also shows you just kind of Bryce was so unsure of himself, couldn't make a shot. The game was fast. Suddenly he had to change his entire mechanics to get a shot off. He couldn't get it off anymore, and he couldn't make a shot. So he goes the off season and he works on his footwork and he gets quicker release, and now he is so confident. So, I think that, and then Walker obviously worked on his trunk, and he's so strong. He's having such a massive impact on every game. And he's so different. So when we talk about Isaiah Collier, I think, we're seeing these flashes, but I think there's a lot of skills in there that just are not going away. The speed, the tenacity, the power. He made shots the other night. He hasn't done that yet in his NBA career. I don't know how good a shooter he will ever become. And obviously in this league, you have to be able to shoot. But, one of the things he's not great at right now is what he actually did to win the game the other night, which is finishing at the rim and getting on top of the rim and figuring out when he can finish and when he can't. Well, he's going to learn that over the next 2 or 3 years. So this kid's got a lot of skills. He's got a great demeanor, super kid. I've been really surprised by his court vision. I think the phrase would be basketball IQ, but I kind of hate that phrase. I just think his willingness to get off the ball, his willingness to set his teammates, he's not what you would think a AAU developed, number one prospect in the country at one point type guard is. He's actually much more of a pass first, find guys, read the floor, see what's going on, plays with teammates really well. I mean, those things are really impressive.
Well, David, one of the things that you didn't mention that I was most impressed by is he's driving at the rim. He goes down and bounces his face off the court. What did he? Was it his face that hit, his forehead, his temple? What part of his head hit? And then the thing I was impressed by is he came back in that game. He finished and hit that back the layup in overtime to finish it. But the toughness kind of showed there for Isaiah Collier.
Yeah, I thought he got. I thought his face actually came down on the hip of whoever the Brooklyn Nets player was, and since I'd never seen half of them in my life before that night, I can't remember who it was. Keon Johnson, who I had seen in my life. I think his face came down on Keon Johnson's hip, actually. But I could be wrong. Isaiah's got like kind of a little bit of, he probably should be your favorite player, Hans. He's got a little bit of a football mentality, and he played football for a long time.
He's a tough dude.
He's kind of he looks like a football player, doesn't he? Like that body.
He's built.
Yeah, he'd be an incredible running back or free safety.
Mm-hmm. What is he,
6'3",
about 220, 230?
Yeah, right. Yeah, probably a little less because he's a basketball player, but he's a football player. He's 220.
Yeah.
He's 6'3", 225 blitzing free safety. Like, oh, okay. Hey, actually, I'm going to let the backup quarterback play today.
Go play a game for Minnesota. Take 9 sacks.
Is that what Darnold had last night? 9 sacks?
Yeah.
Hey,
wow.
Yeah.
For 90 yards of loss.
I know. How about that? Yeah.
And do you think that was on Darnold, or is that the Rams defense?
That's our entire second segment of the show.
I gave it, I would put 5 on Darnold and 4 on the offensive line. I'd put them all on the offensive coordinator for not figuring it out, that the Rams are bringing heat.
I will say this, and maybe it's because I'm a Sox fan, and so I've been watching them, but like I did say like 4 or 5 weeks ago, the Rams are going to the Super Bowl.
Huh.
And I know the Lions are playing great, but like I watched the Rams, and they just, they weren't dismantling people the way the Lions were, which is far more impressive, but they were playing close games you never thought they were going to lose. Does that make sense?
Okay, I see where you're at. Yeah,
and I find that really impressive. Like the contrast was watching the Seahawks, who like you're like close game and oh crap, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, how are you going to lose this game? Yeah.
Right, or like oh God, please Gino, no, don't, no Gino, no Gino, no Gino. Like, but like Stafford's so in control, Sean McVay's so in control, and their defense just was getting better and better. And like, I think there's also a really interesting thing. Like, how many defenses are there in the NFL that if you're up 4 and the other team gets the ball with 3 minutes left and has 70 yards to go, you're like, yeah, no, this isn't the problem. They'll get a stop. Like that's how I felt about the Rams for the last like 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Was like, oh, they're always going to get a stop.
So I'm always fascinated on how coaches handle themselves and the relationships and the ability to be not just an X's and O's guy, but a psychologist as well. And I can't imagine the amount of time you've gone to practices or shoot-arounds in which Will Hardy has just torn into Walker Kessler about something or energy or a missed assignment or whatever the case is and just let him have it. And yet the other night, he's right there next to him celebrating when his girlfriend becomes Miss America. How hard is that, and how rare is that for a coach to be able to walk both those lines to where you can be a supportive, I'm with you every step of the way for your life achievements, for those that are close to you, their achievements, but also I can tear into you when you're not doing your job well enough?
So I've seen, honestly, Will that we see who occasionally tears into people coming off the floor for a timeout. Honestly, that's not like Will who's at practice. It's just in fairness. So I don't want to portray.
Fair enough.
Him like running around practice. Like he's got a few times we've been at stuff. I can go on one hand the amount of times I've really seen him ever kind of come undone. He's pretty calculated. He's really calculated about how often you hear his voice, if that makes sense. Like he has a lot of his coaches doing a lot of stuff, so the players aren't always hearing from him. Nonetheless, I think the overall point is great. I thought that was really incredible. We were in Orlando. We were flying home from a road trip, kind of a long one. Like Will didn't fly home with the team. He went and spent the evening with Walker and watched the event together so that Walker wasn't, and then was there. Yeah, I think it was really cool. Like, I think it's I don't think that's common. I think that's where Will's different and has a better relationship and connection with his players, and why his players believe in him, and why in a few of the most difficult environments he's been able to hold this group together, and why I thought, I don't know if you heard Will's post game the other night. I thought he made a real, I feel like Will's super calculated, and every now and then there's like a real emotional moment. Certainly there was, if you don't respect the word Utah on your front, like you can't, this, and if you don't play, if you don't, whatever when he got upset, in Portland, like if you don't pass or play hard, you don't play. Those moments, I thought there was one that was kind of close the other night, like where he really was like passionately talking about the importance of wins to maintain the focus to do the hard things, but also how impressed he was about his group, that they had just kind of stayed together in the midst of just kind of a wacky, weird season with a lot of noise and distractions that could, I think, derail people's mentality. And I think Will's earned that from his guys by doing things like what he did with Walker. Like, not only does I think it impacts Walker, but I think it impacts all the other guys that they saw that too. Oh, wait, Will didn't come back. So he could be with, that's awesome. Right. Yeah. And you kind of know if you have that moment, Will would do it for you too.
David, we appreciate it as always. Looking forward to the weekly chocolate chip cookie report.
I will really commit myself to the task of trying as many chocolate chip cookies as I can.
We appreciate your sacrifice.
Okay, thank you. Talk to you soon.
See you, David. David Locke, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, coming up next, folks, you're going to hear the first public comments from Jason Beck, new offensive coordinator for the University of Utah. It's all straight ahead. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
David Locke joining us.
Patrick Kinahan wearing a Notre Dame hat reminds me Notre Dame would be a team that you cannot front run on, because Notre Dame fans are kind of like people that are vegan. So I'm playing golf and we're playing with this guy, and we get to the fourth tee box and he looks at us and he says, "So it's nice to know you're not vegan." And we're like, "What?" He goes, "Well, we've been together for 25 minutes. If you were vegan, you would have told me by now." And Notre Dame fans are pretty much the same way.
I'm going to give him a pass. In this case, his dad is an Irish Catholic from Jersey and loved Notre Dame, and he says he watches Notre Dame and he thinks of his dad who passed away a few years ago. People who say that, don't they always get a pass?
I mean, when you drop the "my dad's dead" part of the story, yeah, I really appreciate you making me feel terrible about myself this morning. Now my great energy, my excitement of being on with DJ and PK, all gone because I made fun of Patrick Kinahan's dead dad.
Oh, this is uncomfortable.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The wheel is loaded, when it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Tuesday, everybody. You're going to hear from Jason Beck coming up here in just a moment. But it is a Tuesday, which means it's a Jazz Ticket Tuesday. We're giving away tickets all day long at 30 minutes past the hour. All you have to do is be caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. If you're caller number 12, you'll win a pair of tickets to see the Jazz and Charlotte coming up tomorrow at Delta Center. And if you don't win those tickets, then just wait another hour. And JJ Knox will give away a pair at 3:30, and then at 4:30, and then at 5:30. You know the drill. It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, Hans, I'm fired up for this. Jason Beck played quarterback at BYU, has followed Bronco Mendenhall around quite a bit throughout his career at Virginia, then went to Syracuse with Dr. Anai, was with New Mexico with Bronco last year, and now is the offensive coordinator for the University of Utah. Here's his first public comments as the leader of the Utah offense right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jason, I'm curious, just walk me through the process of deciding to come to Utah and what you think you can do with this program now that you're here.
Yeah, just, when I hit that time of year and had some opportunities come up, and Coach Witt came calling, and know the program well, looking at it from the outside and following it over all this time. And, man, what a great opportunity to be a part of such a great program. The success they've had over a long period of time, playing and winning conference championships. It was just a no-brainer for me to be able to join such a great program and to be a part of it.
How would you describe your offense to Utah fans that haven't seen a lot of it?
The offense is just kind of based around playing to your personnel, to your players. So it's all about identifying your best players and putting them in positions to have success and to play well. A lot of times that's driven through the quarterback. It starts with him. It starts with the O-line, with what they can do, and then it goes to the other skill people around them. But it's QB-centered and play to your personnel.
How do your schemes and your philosophy on offense kind of fit with the culture and philosophy here at Utah? How do they kind of work together, just from your early perspective?
Yeah, I do. We start with the who, like I mentioned, who the guys are, and then it's all about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And so the execution is the what. But with the culture, it's all about how, the competitiveness, the spirit, the heart, the fight. And so, man, we coach that out of our guys just as much as we do the execution side of things, because we want those, every play, it's, do I get the job done against the guy I'm going against at the highest level? So that competitive spirit, which I've appreciated about this program over all these years, it's evident, tough guys playing physical, playing hard. That's what it's all about.
Coach, to kind of piggyback off of that, how beneficial is it for you to have the quarterback that played under you last season follow you to Utah?
Yeah, that was very positive, just in terms of he knows we'll tweak some things and adapt some things, but yeah, he's already up and running, so he's been in it for a year. And so just his example to help the other guys or to show what it's supposed to look like at a high level for the other guys to come around, and how that permeates throughout, the offensive guys is a big positive, as well as I know him. The other quarterbacks here, I'm going to really need to get to know them and what their strengths are and how to help them, where with Dev, I have that history of knowing him at a really high level, so you're already starting from that point. You're starting from a year in with a person, which is a huge advantage with that.
Jason, continuing on that line of questioning, what was the conversation like with Devin as soon as you got this job? Didn't take much convincing? Did he want to continue to play in this type of offense? And also, there's been a history of injuries with quarterbacks here, obviously. He's a big runner. Do you want to continue that aggressiveness when he has the ability to take off?
So starting with the first part, it was not guaranteed. I knew him and his family appreciated what we did and how we used them and that relationship. But with this world of you hit the portal and, we were talking about NIL earlier and all those variables, yeah, you never know what could happen or would happen. And so it was obviously great that it worked out the way it did, and you feel good about that, but nothing's guaranteed till it happens. So that was great. Along that thing of playing to guys' skill sets, Devin does have that skill set as a runner, but you do need to manage that depending on the bye weeks and rest. That you can't overuse, but at the same time, when you need to do certain things, critical points in game, critical situations, you got to go to what's going to be the best for you. And so there is an art to managing that and being smart about it. And on the flip side, I've had as many guys get hurt just doing normal stuff, standing in the pocket throwing it as I have running it. And he has a really good ability to protect himself. So he's not taking direct shots and those kind of things. And a lot of times guys who have that skill set, they are that way. As a runner, they can protect themselves at a pretty high level. It's more the other times that the injuries come up, the unexpected type of thing. So, but yeah, you gotta manage that.
We were seeing 2 and 3 tight ends at a time deployed in Utah's offense over the last few years. How do you plan on using the tight ends, given who's on the roster now and how you like to play?
Yeah, it's if it's a strength, the tight end play, then man, we'll play with 2 tight ends. If it's so, it really is just that. I kind of use that phrase, "earn not given." Those guys earn the right for their role and what that looks like. And some years we've done a lot of 12, and we've even done this past year. We did a lot of 2 tight ends, 3 wideouts, because of Devin's ability as the runner. Because that was the guys you trusted, the circle of trust. 2 of those tight end guys were in there, and so we had them on the field quite a bit. Other years, it's been a lot more 11 personnel because of that. My first year at Syracuse, 10 personnel was our top thing because that was the strength of the thing. So it really is the who and identifying the who and who's in that circle of trust and then creating it around them with what they do.
Looking at his numbers from New Mexico, 58% if you round up completion, 12 touchdown passes, 12 picks. Do you think those numbers need to improve in the Big 12?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And with a young guy, they should. As he continues to grow and improve, they should improve, absolutely.
There you go. Jason Beck, offensive coordinator at the University of Utah. His first public comments running the ship, and talked about Devin Dampier, talked about what he brings to the table and as a runner. And now he got away with this at the Mountain West level. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it at the Big 12 level. But he was right in his assessment. In the games that I watched, New Mexico, and I watched quite a few of them, he has that ability to be able to run the football and not take the big shot, and which kept him relatively healthy this year. So that'll be interesting to see if that's a skill set that can translate at the Big 12 when you got some bigger, stronger, faster athletes out there on the defensive side.
The other thing that he got into was that, he's got some offensive sets, but they largely do it dependent on what the defense is doing and some personnel matchups and what they have offensively that they feel like they can exploit. So there's some good and there's some bad with that. There's a lot of offensive coordinators that'll just say, this is who we are. We go fast, we go hard. Robert and I was kind of a go fast, go hard. We'll work on what we are and who we are. We'll perfect that, and we don't worry about what's in front of us.
They have to adjust to us.
Yeah. I think that Jason is a lot more of what are they trying to do? And what do we do well against what they're trying to do? And we will implement a system that fights against that.
Yeah.
And he's found success with it. And we'll see if it works at the Big 12 level. He was there at Syracuse doing it.
Yeah.
And he just did it pretty well at New Mexico.
Yep. Did it at Virginia.
Did it at Virginia. And I don't want people to associate or think that he's very similar to Robert and I. Because from what I've been told, he takes some of the fundamentals, but he's not Robert Anae. He doesn't have the same calling mentality as Robert Anae. Obviously, is drawing heavily from Robert because that's who he played under, that's who he's coached with, that's who his quarterbacks coach with, but from what I understand, he's uniquely different from Robert. And the only way for me to really clarify that is to get into a season and watch his calls.
Yep. All right, final segment next. We'll get you ready for JJ and Alex and put a nice little tidy bow on this straight ahead. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Christian's never seen Almost Famous because you and I are both ancient. One of the best movies ever. And Earl is the lead singer. Jason Lee.
Jason Lee, who started his career as a professional skateboarder. Do you know that? He's like one of the greatest skateboarders of all time. And was like, I'm going to shift into being a big-time actor.
Scientologist.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, cool.
What do you mean? Isn't it a well-known fact that Jason Lee is a Scientologist?
I just thought it was a little irrelevant to the story, but...
Well known to one out of the three of us.
I don't know. I was thinking of all the things that I know about Jason Lee. Ben dropped this skateboarder thing in there, which seemed fairly fascinating. I just happen to know the guy's a Scientologist. That's all. What are you implying?
About Jason Lee today.
What are you saying? I wasn't saying anything negative about him. I just pointed it out. Scientologist.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah! We've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5 The Sports Zone.
All right, Hans, another show in the books. I'll be down in Vegas coming up tomorrow, getting you ready for Utah State and UNLV. Call that game tomorrow night, and then be back on the air with you on Thursday. But yeah, we got more games to break down. We got a college football playoff championship to get you ready for, NFL divisional playoff series. This is my favorite week of the NFL playoffs because you have quality, but you also still have the quantity too. You still have a bunch of games.
Oh man, it's loaded. Another thing, BYU is playing Oklahoma State tonight.
Yes. And
Oklahoma State is kind of that get-right game. It's a 7 o'clock tip. So if you're interested in BYU's current downward spiral, and if they can fix it, they got to fix it tonight.
Yeah.
They can't stumble against Oklahoma State.
If they stumble this one, then it's a problem.
Right, because that's at home. It's at the Marriott Center, and it's not a good Oklahoma State team.
No.
So they got to straighten out the ship a little bit tonight. That's on ESPN Plus if you want to catch that. And I'll be out by the ice coming up tonight. I'm excited to go catch this one, watching the Canadians. Montreal. This is a storied organization.
Oh, yeah. Yep. It's one of the original six.
One of the original six. So excited to catch that action. I think they're 20-12 or 20-15. They're a winning program. Winning organization at this point. So we'll see what they do and if the Utah Hockey Club can, like I said, man, a 7-game homestand. To me, they've got to finish 4-3.
Yeah. I don't think.
And they currently sit 1-2.
Yeah. So.
And I know there's some tough teams, but you kind of got to beat Montreal. If you're going to be a playoff team, you kind of got to find a way against Montreal at Delta Center tonight.
Yep. I would 1,000% agree with that. All right, back with you tomorrow on the show. Hans and Scotty will recap that, BYU, and the hockey game, as well as all the games coming up this weekend. Thanks for making us part of your Tuesday. JJ and Alex coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.